Hello, everyone. I'm Dean Foote. Hopefully everybody's on board here. And welcome to the Executive Webinar Series, Site Selection Trends of Today's Thriving Industries. I'm going to go through a slideshow presentation, about 30 minutes or so. And you will have questions as we go along here. And feel free to type your questions onto your screen there. I'll be able to see them. What we're going to do is take all the questions, and then at the end of the presentation, I'll go through and answer as many as we have time for. And the hope here is that this webinar will go, about 45 minutes or so. We may run a little bit over. We did last time. But hopefully we'll get through it in short order. So welcome. I promise there's only 25 slides here. I don't want to hurt anybody this morning. Just a little bit about us. I'm president of Foote Consulting Group. Originally founded this company back in the 90s in Chicago. Last year, I reopened it here in Arizona. In between, I've been doing site selection and economic development work for a number of years. Most recently worked for Jacobs Carter Burgess here in Phoenix. I was in the real estate and site selection group with Carter Burgess, and as many of you may know, we did a tremendous amount of distribution center location work. We located over 80 major distribution centers in a course of about an 8-year period, a lot of the work for Walmart. Before that, worked for Paragon Decision Resources, which is a major relocation company headquartered in Southern California. Worked for Fanis Company in the past, where I got my feet wet in the site selection business, and started in the economic development field, working in Champaign-Urbana, Illinois, for a number of years. But I've done a lot of projects, both economic development and site selection, and we're continuing that process with the new company. Few objectives today. We're going to talk quite a bit about location expansion trends in today's marketplace, and obviously it's the question on everybody's mind: how long is this recession going to last? Is there still activity out there? Are there projects that we can go after? And when is the activity going to improve? We're going to look at some of the growth sectors that we see today. Even with this recession, there are good projects taking place. There's good activity in certain sectors, so we're going to look a little bit about that. We're going to focus quite a bit on renewables and the growth in that particular industry. We're going to talk about location trends. We're going to talk about some specific projects, and then we're going to also help you understand how to track your growth sectors regionally, so that you can have an understanding of what sectors make sense, what might be good targets for the future, and how to go after some of those targets. And then finally, we're going to talk more specifically about some specific projects, the types of projects that are hot today in the solar and the wind turbine markets. I wanted to point out before we go too much further, all these slides will be available on our website, which is www.footeconsulting.com. And if you go under that website, under our blog, which is called Footnotes, by the way. You'll be able to download this presentation. Probably give us a day or so to put it up and get everything straight, and then you'll be able to go on and take care of that. Let's look at some trends. We utilize a very powerful database in our site selection work that's produced by Conway Data. Some of you may be familiar with it. Essentially, this database tracks locations and expansion trends around the world. And the neat part about it is it takes it right up to the latest quarter. So we're looking at first quarter 09 data in our work right now. And this particular graph depicts some trends between 2003 and 2008. And it tracks it by broad sectors here. On the top line, the red line is manufacturing activity. The most projects have taken place in this particular sector as by far, as you can see, over this 5-year period. But you could also see that the trend has been tracking downward. Not surprising with today's economy. But just to add a couple numbers here, the high point in 2004 were 3,300 projects. And in 2008, that tracked down to just under 2,500 projects domestically. So you can see the trend isn't very good. The second line, the blue line there, are warehouse distribution projects, or DC projects as we call them. And also, as you'll see later, it's the largest single sector as far as project activity. But you look at this trend, and it's also been tracking slightly downward as well. And this is primarily due to the reduction in retail sales. Retail sales have been way down. Therefore, distribution centers that serve those stores have not been built or expanded upon. So this trend will continue to track down a bit. We see some light at the end of the tunnel here that I'll talk about a little bit later. A couple there, the office line there, the yellow line. You can see it's been tracking pretty even, maybe even a little bit up the last year or so. And then also for headquarters projects, very minor increases though. And then also for call centers, that line has been pretty flat, and we would expect that to continue until the economy improves. The next slide, one thing I did fail to point out, just as a point of reference on this Conway database, it tracks any project with 50 jobs, $1 million in capital investment, or 20,000 square feet in size. And but it does not track retail projects. So keep that in mind. Let's look at the regional trends here. And you can see the trend lines don't improve any and look pretty bad in general here, particularly when you look at the Midwest, where the dark blue line that has shown a huge number of projects in the past, a high of 2,400 back in 2003, and that's been tracking continuously downward to just over 1,600 this last year. The South, also very active in projects, South region, that tracked from a high of almost 2,200 projects down to just under 1,300 projects. Not a very good trend. All the trends have been generally downward. You see a little bit of an increase in projects in the West. The black line tracked downward until the last couple of years, when you see a little bit of a minor increase in projects, primarily driven by markets, growth markets in the Southwest. And then trailing the pack has been the Northeast, traditionally a fewer number of projects, and you can see those numbers are pretty much bringing up the rear. Let's look at some growth sectors here, And this is information that we've been collecting and trying to assess, seeing what's hot and what's not. And we're going to spend quite a bit of time on renewables in a few minutes here, but I just wanted to go through some of these other hot sectors with you. Renewables, we're going to see those numbers are very impressive. Data centers and data management has also been hot. A lot of projects are still on the books and still looking, primarily driven by the growth of servers in the IT industry. I think one hot area here that you want to take a look at is in the medical sector, medical records. That particular type of project is going to continue to expand. Talk to your medical community, talk to your hospitals, find out what their data management needs are, and with the new mandates regarding paperless systems, we're going to see this particular sector really explode over the next couple of years. Creative media, it's been hot. Software development, very hot. Healthcare and medical devices continues to be a good growth sector, and we'll continue to see, particularly in the manufacturing area, medical devices will be a good growth sector for us in the next couple of years. Biotech, life sciences will continue to be a hot sector. And then, as I mentioned here, excuse me, earlier, warehouse distribution or DC projects, although the trend has been down recently, just the sheer volume of needs in regards to the retail industry, we anticipate that this sector will take off again over the next year or so, and should also be on your radar screen. Let's look at the renewable or clean energy segment, and these numbers are pretty staggering when you look at the worldwide scale. Looking at $116 billion in capital investment this year, it's going to grow to over $325 billion of capital investment by the year 2018. So it's hard to get your arms around this kind of volume, but the point here is that there's going to be a lot of investment, and there's going to be a lot of new projects in the renewable sector, and you can see the breakdown there. We're not going to talk a lot about biofuels in this particular presentation, but obviously it's one that you should continue to keep an eye on. Ethanol, biodiesel types of projects, although they've been on the decline because of fuel prices recently, certainly will be back as fuel prices rise. When we look domestically, the numbers are equally impressive. The couple things to point out here, on the fuel cell area, we're not going to focus a lot on fuel cells today, but it's certainly going to be a growth sector. Particularly, we're talking about electric automobiles, electric vehicles. For instance, Integrity Auto announced the location of a major manufacturing plant in outside of Franklin, Kentucky, which is expected to produce 4,000 jobs, making electric cars. Related to that, a company called Interdel located a lithium-ion battery facility outside of Indianapolis with about 850 jobs. So that particular sector related to the auto industry will be hot, and I would definitely focus on it in your planning. The other thing to point out here in regards to the solar numbers, for instance, are pretty impressive. But when you think about this, that every $1 million in capital investment will produce 2 jobs, and we're talking about the potential of $74 billion of capital investment in the solar industry domestically. So you can do the math, and those job numbers are very, very impressive. Also impressive is the investment that we expect to see from foreign investors in renewables. And here's a few stats that I pulled off of Business Week recently, talking about project investment. And the numbers are nice. A couple of the names here may not be household names now, but companies that you should pay attention to. Iberdrola out of Spain, the #2 wind power manufacturing company, is making some impressive investments here in the United States. They just announced, for instance, a solar farm and a solar thermal plant here in our home state of Arizona, up near Holbrook, which is near the New Mexican border. And these farms are going to be very impressive. They're going to require, upwards of 70 square miles of desert or wherever they locate to put the farms in. Obviously, the thermal plant will be freestanding and an important investment as well. The other company, Vestas here out of Denmark, company to pay careful attention to, another big investor in wind turbine. And as you can see here, #2 in the industry is GE, and #3, a company out of Spain. But Vestas has made some impressive investments, particularly in the West, as you'll see here in a few minutes. All these foreign companies, like every other company, are scrambling for stimulus dollars. There's a lot of money on the table right now, and it's driving the need for lots of capital investment. Let's talk a little bit about workforce needs, and a very, very important component of these renewable energy projects. This graphic kind of generally explains that there's a wide range of different skill levels associated with renewables. Everything from very hands-on installation types of operations all the way to very technical engineering and technician positions with the need for formal education. So we're talking about, obviously, the potential of hundreds of different jobs with these different projects, and a wide range of different types of skills and a wide range of educational requirements. This slide is probably one of the most important that we're going to talk about today when we talk about the importance of transferable skills from traditional manufacturing to new clean energy jobs. And we're working on a project in the Midwest that involves a closed auto plant, and we're doing some work on the transferable skills area. And this kind of simply explains it, but I think as economic developers, you want to spend a lot of time in this particular area to understand your existing skill base and what those skills and abilities are, and how those can potentially transfer into some renewable jobs. And you can see the traditional, for instance, on the left-hand side, the traditional millwright job and auto assembly has a lot of different skills in the manufacturing sector, and that potentially could transfer into a job in the wind power industry, manufacturing either wind turbines or nacelle units, the mechanical devices that go into the turbine, and can very nicely be transferred over, but it doesn't happen easily. There's going to be a huge ramp up and retraining phase that the company's going to have to go through to get some of these skills transferred over. But the process is taking place now. It takes a lot of planning, and I would encourage you to work with your workforce investment boards and others to make sure that this kind of area is being addressed so that you have the skill base to attract some of these new renewables. This map came to us from Site Selection Magazine. You may have seen it. And it essentially is identifying new and planned wind power and solar projects around the country. And you can see some nice clusters of projects, a nice cluster of wind power projects in the Midwest, Iowa, Illinois, Wisconsin, Nebraska, and also in the Mid-South down in Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas. And then you see a nice concentration of solar projects, both new and expanded, on the east and on the west coast. So there's the thought is that, well, a solar project can only be where there's sun many, many hours. And that in some cases is true, but not necessarily. Components for solar manufacturing plants can be made elsewhere and shipped to solar farms. Just a couple of things. We talked about Vestas and the wind power company, and to look at the map here, they've got projects in a blade manufacturing plant in Windsor, Colorado. They've got a tower plant in Colorado. They've got an R&D facility in Houston, Texas. And they've got a tower manufacturing plant in Pueblo, Colorado. So Colorado's been doing a great job of attracting some of this investment. And as you'll see later, some of it is due to proximity. The center of the wind belt, for instance, is it Colorado? Well, that's part of it, but it's not only Colorado. And but a lot of it's been driven by incentives that these states have put together and are offering. Also look at some nice investment by GE Energy. The round dot on the solar side, number 5 and number 6, one in Memphis, Tennessee, and one in Schenectady, New York. There's a parts manufacturing facility on the solar side. And then if you look under number 12, the dot in New Mexico, that's outside of Albuquerque, and the well-recognized shot manufacturing facility, company out of Germany, that's putting up a plant right now at a development called Mesa del Sol, and they will be employing eventually about 1,500 workers, making essentially it's a PV solar plant, making solar modules for the industry. This was a controversial project in that they were competing with a number of different states, including my home state of Arizona, also Colorado, New Mexico, Oregon, and California. New Mexico came out on top with a very, very impressive incentive package, which included investment tax credits and job training. But they also had a very, very nice site. Mesa del Sol is located about 5 minutes from the Albuquerque airport, and it's obviously got great accessibility and made a big difference in the location of this particular project. Let's turn our attention now to understanding your own growth sectors. And again, we're utilizing the Conway data site location database here, information that we've used in our site location work. And you can put this information together for any region of the country to find out where clusters of activity are taking place. This particular slide, I'm looking at Arizona and California as a region. And I originally put this slide together because I wanted to show some of the officials in Arizona that we're getting killed by California on solar projects and others. But this information is very valuable in our site location work as it helps us understand where activity is taking place. If that activity is taking place now, good things are going to continue to happen in that region, and maybe it's a good place for my new client to take a look at. When you look at the solar manufacturing area, it primarily falls under the computer electronics category here, and you can see there are 15 major projects in California and 3 in Arizona in that particular sector. But that's where most of the solar projects are going to land as far as the right sector. The next slide talks about some major deals in Arizona and California, second half of '08. And you can see we talked about some of our growth sectors in the past, what's going to be hot, and this slide carries that forward. We've got a healthcare project, we've got an instrumentation project, we have communications, aerospace, medical instruments, and also distribution centers. I was particularly impressed with the last line there. Skechers is putting almost 2 million square feet in a distribution center that's going to serve the Southwest markets. But then obviously you focus on solar. Solyndra located a solar manufacturing PV plant. It's going to produce about 390 jobs in Fremont. Just simplistically here to talk a little bit about the life cycle of a solar plant. Keep in mind that the point here is that there's a long life cycle, and there's many, many different components in the manufacturing process, starting from the very start where you're going to manufacture silicon chips. Some companies are going to do that to be sold to the solar industry. That's going to transfer into ingots, wafers, and finally into the photovoltaic or VC plant, where they manufacture the solar modules. Those are going to be transferred to the thermal plant, where the actual electricity is going to be produced, obviously adjacent to the solar farm, and then the electricity is going to be sold to the customer. But there's impressive investments all along the life cycle here. There's a company called SolOil that's located about a 350-person plant in Ohio that's going to manufacture silicon chips for the solar industry. We mentioned Solyndra in Fremont that's manufacturing the PV modules. We talked about Iberdrola manufacturing the thermal plant outside of Holbrook. So the life cycle is continuing along nicely here, and so there's projects all along this particular cycle. The next slide, we're going to focus on a PV plant. Generally, the kind of site selection criteria that these particular plants are looking for. Number one, access to market is going to be important. They're going to be purchasing and shipping glass for the PV modules, frames for these particular modules. They're going to be transporting it as a finished product to the solar sites. These, in some cases, are very small units. They don't necessarily have to be right at the solar farm, but can be transferred via truck or air freight in some cases. The larger modules are it's going to be necessary for them to be closer to the solar farms. They're going to be requiring skilled workers. In some cases, a clean room type environment where they're going to be handling the silicon and the PV materials. Electric power is going to be very, very important. Reliable and competitively cost electric power is going to be important. No question about that. Look at your zoning regulations. These particular manufacturers like to be able to put the units on their own roofs for testing, and something to keep in mind. They're looking for very clean and sustainable communities, and they're going to be looking for some sizable incentives, primarily tax credits that can help reduce their investment. We're going to shift gears a little bit to a Midwest region, again utilizing the location expansion database, and doing some work recently in a region, Kansas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Missouri. And you can see the broad sectors here as far as activity that's taken place over the second half of '08. Pretty impressive still on manufacturing projects. DC projects have been substantially down, as we've talked about. Pretty good activity in office call centers. When we break this down further, looking at the hot sectors in this particular region, most active were call centers, software, and IT type of projects, where there was 48 locations. Second, pharmaceutical and bio. There's quite a bit of biofuel activity. But then when you get down to fab metals and industrial machinery, pretty good activity. And I think you'll see that most of the wind power projects are going to fall within those two sectors, or a few sectors, industrial machinery, fab metals, electronics in some cases, depending on the nature of the project. But you can see there's been pretty good activity in those couple of individual sectors. Looking at the specific projects, ones that have been hot, and you can see the different sectors that have been active. Quite a bit of back office, call center activity in this particular region. Aircraft manufacturing out of Wichita, a big growth sector there. But you do see a major wind turbine project that located in Jonesboro, Arkansas, a company called Nordex, that's projected to produce 700 jobs. Looking at wind power site criteria, again, fairly generally here, but we're talking about the nacelle unit, which is the gearbox, generator, and transformer components that go into the blade assembly, and then we're talking about the actual blade itself, where you're going to be handling huge pieces of equipment. These blades are enormous, and looking at new composite type of materials, lighter and lighter materials are going to be required as these blades are produced. And I was talking to someone yesterday that they're now looking at a blade that is made out of partially balsa wood, obviously not the outside of it, but internally a very light component that's also can be durable on the outside. So lighter and lighter is going to be important. Obviously, access to market's important because we're talking about big pieces of equipment. So access to the wind farms, the wind belts, available labor, machining, electronic skills with good quality, very important. Rail sites are going to be needed, and if there's dual rail, that's even a big plus here, multiple providers. But certainly a rail site is essential. Up to 200-acre sites, buildings in excess of 500,000 square feet, 30-foot clear ceilings at least. Also the need for heavy-duty cranes. Up to 1,500-ton cranes are going to be necessary so you can move these components within the plant. Free of earthquake and floods, very important. And then the training component is going to be very, very important here. A good college that can offer degrees and also on-the-job training in the machining and electronics area. Incentives, obviously, anything to do with capital investments, job training, and investment tax credits are going to be positive here. The point here is that you need to do your due diligence on these projects, and there's a number of great data sources for finding information. Talking about here's a graphic that just depicts the seismic activity around the country, and when you're talking about wind farms, obviously being aware of good sites that are free of earthquake hazards are going to be important. I talked about earlier about on the job training side, and there's a couple of good resources there on transferable skills. Utilizing the ONET program is important. You can go to onet.com, find information about that particular program. There's also a good program called skillstrack.com. It's skills, TRAC.com, and it's a site that was developed by some Western Ohio communities that talk about the transferable skills process that they're going through. So I'd recommend that as well. Obviously, you want to do your due diligence on wages and skills. This graphic just depicts wage differentials for a welder in that Midwest region we were looking at. As site selectors, we utilize ERI, Economic Research Institute data. In my estimation, one of the best sources of up-to-date wage information. Takes it right up to the latest quarter. And you can track it by over 5,000 different positions, and a really great database if you're not familiar with it. We're going to be looking for sites. We utilize a number of different site location programs and databases. Zoom Prospector is a good one, and one we've used in the past and will continue to use. Zoom Prospector talks about, gets us information about demographics, labor, sites and buildings, and you can actually track different parameters by blue and white collar workers, the volume that you need. This particular graphic shows the site search for about a 100-acre site in Oklahoma, and brings up a number of attractive locations that we wanted to take a look at. Ultimately, as economic developers, you want to know how you're going to compete for these projects. This is a fairly simple graphic that talks about the weighting process that we go through when we're doing site selection, and this is for a wind turbine project. We're going to give certain weights, importance weights to different criteria, and then we're going to rate your city and come up with a score for each particular category. And you can see here that this particular city had really good access to wind farms, good rail access, good sites, good incentives, scored well there, but fell off in regards to electric power, cost and reliability, and access to suppliers. So they fell down a little bit there, but essentially we're going to rate different communities using a weighted criteria system similar to this. And I want everybody to stay alert for all those projects that are going to be coming your way. And with that, that concludes my formal comments. And if there are questions, please feel free to type those in. I did point out that these slides will be available on our website. Let me put that information up. Sorry about that. I lost the last slide there. You can see our website. Feel free to go onto that, and under our blog footnotes, and then information will be posted in a day or so. One question here, see if I can expand some of these. So one question here was, what kind of scale do you rank the cities on? And it typically, the program that we're using now, it does rate it on a 1 to 10 scale, 1 being excellent and 1 being poor. And that's the one that we typically would use for each particular category. And we create this weighted scale by working with the particular client to find out what are the most important site location criteria and in each project, whether it's access to market, whether it's wages, whether it's skills, and then we would rank communities based on that. Other question here, what parts of the country are targets for wind farms? And I think you could see from the particular map there that those in the wind belt, which tend to be in the center of the country, are having the most success right now. But keep in mind, that has to be tied to good state policies, good incentives, and good workforce components. So not every state in the wind belt is being successful. Colorado, for instance, has been successful because they put together good policies and been aggressive in going after some of these projects. So I would suggest that keep working on your state programs and local programs to make sure you have the kind of criteria that these companies are looking for. Question here on what do we consider low-cost electric power, and I shouldn't say low cost. I think competitive is the better word. We're going to be doing comparisons on competitive cost, and it really depends on the nature of the project. I can't really comment on a specific number there, but obviously we're looking for good, competitive, and reliable rates. Any other questions here that I missed? I think I hit them all. Seeing no others, I want to thank everybody for participating in the webinar today. And feel free to contact us if you have further questions, or go on to our website, www.footconsulting.com. Thank you very much, and have a great day.